Hello, everyone. Let's see. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It's Nisi. Hello, hi. We're going to get started real soon. Hey, Kyle, I see you. I'm going to bring you on in just a sec. How's everybody doing today? So far, I got a couple of people on. Just want to give it a couple of minutes or so. Hope everybody's day was good. So, this is my IG live show, All Things Small Business. My name is Denise Smith, and I host a television show called Level Up on CTV. It's local here to the DMV. Since the coronavirus or the pandemic started shutting down businesses and closing a lot of doors, it also slowed down the production of my show. So I wanted to do something that would keep the show going, or the momentum going for entrepreneurs. So what I started doing was doing Instagram live conversations with small business owners who are successful every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. And tonight's guest, we're going to be revisiting. We did a topic on franchising several weeks ago, but I wanted to circle back around to that. And so our guest tonight is Kyle Yancey from Jersey Mike's, and he's got a lot of great information that we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm going to bring him on right now. Hey.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me
I
good?
can hear you good, but you're sideways.
Am I side? Okay, let me try to get this.
Okay,
Let me see.
That's good.
All right, there we go. Let me just get this set up.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you probably have some cool little stand to hold your phone perfectly. I gotta improvise over here a little bit, but we'll get it.
Yeah, yeah.
There we go.
Oh, good. How you doing?
Happy Tuesday.
Happy
Good.
Tuesday.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just had a busy day.
Yeah.
But everything went well. You know, the stores are busy right now. The teams are doing well. So we're very fortunate right now, given obviously considering that everything that's going on.
Good. Yeah, and I do want to talk a little bit about, you know, how you're able to, in addition to franchising, but how you're able to, you know, survive the time that we're in right now. And with, you know, one moment, you know, businesses are shut down, and I know essential businesses like food places or food establishments were considered essential and had the option to do carry out and pickups, or carry out and call aheads and everything. But so why don't you start with just you know, tell me who you are, you know, introduce yourself and talk about a little bit about your background.
Sure. So my name's Kyle. I'm from PG County, more or less from PG County. I grew up in Greenbelt, went to good old Eleanor Roosevelt Raiders. When I graduated, I went to school at Salisbury University, and I graduated from there back in 2008, which at the time was kind of like the height of the recession. Just jobs were scarce. And having just graduated college, my mentality that was ingrained in me is like, okay, I'm supposed to get my 9-to-5 job now. Where's my cubicle? Where's my little, starting point, and just kind of work my way up through corporate America. But I couldn't get a job. So through a relationship that I had with a gentleman I've known since early on in high school, who actually owns a couple of Jersey Mike's now, I got pulled into this opportunity with Jersey Mike's. And at the time, so this was 2009, like summer 2009. So at the time, the opportunity for me was, there was no Jersey Mike's in the area at all. I mean, when he told me there's an opportunity with Jersey Mike's, the first thing I say is what? What's that, right?
Right.
But it was people didn't know what that was. That wasn't a brand that was here. You often got, especially in the beginning, you often got people confusing you with Jerry Subs and Pizza.
Yes.
Anyway, the opportunity for me was to move to New Jersey, right? So I moved to Point Pleasant Beach, which is right on the Jersey Shore. It's really close to where the headquarters is, and it's actually where Jersey Mike's originated back in 1956. So I moved there and basically spent a summer and then part of the fall learning Jersey Mike's. So, we dug in and 50, 60, 70 hours a week learned operations. And we spent time there and openings in Chicago, which was.
We got a little bit of, you're breaking up a little bit. I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little bit. I'm not sure. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
Are we better now? You good?
Hello? Yeah, I think so.
Am I breaking up or are we good now?
Yeah, I think we're good now. But just give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. Oh, boy. Okay, we are not good right now. Hello? Do I still have you? Okay, yep. Okay.
All right, now we good? Yeah, I just changed the wireless network too, so maybe it could have been on my end as well. I'm not sure. So picking off where we left off, so moved to Chicago, spent like 3 weeks there, just learning about a store opening, kind of figuring out the marketing side of things, how to get people to come through your door. When we do a grand opening, we kind of blow it out the water, and we do a big. Basically, we put it out through the community, $1 or $2 coupons that basically you come in, you donate $1 to a local nonprofit, a charity, a school, whatever we partnered with on the opening, and then you get a free regular sandwich. So that's an $8, $9 sandwich as long as you make that donation, and we do that for the first 5 days. So for those first 5 days, we're slamming, we're jumping. It's exciting, it's
I'm
fun.
I'm a big fan of Prince George's
But
County.
I kind
I was
of
born and
learned that
raised here
process over
too,
there.
so I love to support
and then we came back to open the first store in the market. The market being DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and Delaware, and good old Laurel, Maryland here in PG County.
Now so for Jersey Mike's, so how did you know that Jersey Mike's was the brand to continue and move forward with when you first started?
Well, in the very beginning, I didn't know anything about it, right? So for me, when I got ingrained in the culture, when I moved up to New Jersey, that's kind of when I became, lack of better words, a believer, right? The product was something that I could stand behind, right? It was something I could be proud of. It was, the best sandwich I'd ever had, right? And then another critical part of me kind of falling in love with the brand was just the people, right? It's all about the people. So, the coolest thing I remember, like my day one training in New Jersey, the president of Jersey Mike's came in and just pulled me aside and talked to me like I was a longtime friend, right? And just feeling that family.
Okay, so let's talk about the process
being accepted into
franchising.
It, and then being able to buy into the product.
A lot of people
it just kind of has just evolved over the years, but absolutely,
my last session on franchising,
believing in the brand is critical, right?
May not have heard this part of it, but for someone like yourself the way that you got into it was basically because you knew people who sort of pulled you into it, right? Most people now, for people who won't have that opportunity, but they are interested in learning about or even buying a franchise. What does that process look like, and where would they go to
Correct.
learn about it? Oh no, right. Sure.
Well, and let me actually backtrack a little bit on my personal story too, because I don't want to make it seem like I was handed a silver spoon or it was some sort of anomaly like that, right? So, so what happened? My opportunity was to be the general manager of the first location, right? So, the opportunity at that point was to help develop and build out this entire market: DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and Delaware, to at the time 140
Mm-hmm.
stores. Okay, so I just looked at it as an opportunity, right? And I've been fortunate enough through the years to do, not only managing our single locations, but doing multi-unit management, to being a franchisee consultant for other franchisees that were developing within this market.
Okay.
And then at about like the 10-year mark, I was able to get some sweat equity in the actual company,
Oh,
our franchise group, not
awesome.
Jersey Mike's as a whole. As a whole, we're knocking on the door of about 2,000 locations. So in our stores, which are 16 locations, basically sprinkled through
Okay, so
Prince George's
someone
County,
who
Montgomery County,
may
Howard,
not
and
be
Frederick
introduced
counties.
to franchising
So
the way that you were,
so now we got that
but
out of
they're
the way. So
interested
back to your
in
question, you were saying
or
how.
they're thinking
Um,
about,
one more
buying a
time, say it.
franchise. What is that? Because you said that now you do a lot of training, right? So talk about that too. Talk about what you do on the training level when it comes to
Sure.
franchising.
Sure. Um, so, back to answering that first question too. The most important thing is do your due diligence. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many opportunities that you hear thrown around, names of different brands, different industries, and you got to really navigate that, right? Back to that original point I said, as far as the product, I
Okay.
think that's
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the baseline, the
Yeah.
foundation, right? I didn't get into Jersey Mike's, or I don't love Jersey Mike's now because
Mm-hmm.
I'm, passionate about sandwiches. No, but at the same time, I can stand behind the product that I'm
Mm-hmm.
serving to my
Mm-hmm.
guests, right? And I think that's a critical point with whatever it is. I mean, if you're doing, much of my experience is in that food service realm, but if it's food service, if it's, franchising and print material, whatever it is, there's a ton of different options out there for people to get involved with. Um, I'll speak specific to the Jersey Mike's process, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is probably general for any franchise group or franchisor. The due diligence piece of it, right? Pick up the phone, call anybody within
Mm-hmm.
that system, right? Whatever that franchise system is that you're doing, call them, right? Pick up the phone and say, sometimes ask those difficult questions. A lot of people shy away from, maybe specific questions like, okay, what are some of your expenses? What's your overhead? What are your profit margins? What are your, ask those questions.
Mm-hmm.
As a franchisor, legally, I cannot
Okay.
give that information out to someone who's inquiring about a franchise. Say, this is what your store is going to profit, stuff like that. But a franchisee within that system absolutely can share any details that they want regarding their business. So, ask that question. Another critical piece is, ask questions
Mm-hmm.
about structure, right? Like how are their teams set up, right? Who does what? Do they have are they running it as a general manager, or do they have someone that is in that role and they're kind of overseeing them? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of questions that a potential Jersey Mike's franchisee, when I would used to meet with them,
Mm-hmm.
when they were developing in this market, would be, what are the roles? Right?
Okay.
Some people are better at different things than others, right? Some people can get behind a computer and don't go stir crazy, right? Me specifically, I get behind a computer, I go crazy. I need to be up and running and bouncing off the wall. But
Mm-hmm.
who's going to do that stuff? And then the other important thing I think is,
Mm-hmm.
outsource what's possible, right? So again, specific to Jersey Mike's, I would say outsource your accounting, outsource your payroll. I mean, unless you have somebody as part of your franchise group that they specialize in that, you want a professional handling that, specifically the accounting side of things, right? You want to make sure that you're getting accurate profit and loss statements, and you're able to know how your business is truly doing month to month. The other thing that I would highly encourage people to do, and I used to always do this with Jersey Mike's, I used to call them an in-store experience, right? So
Sure.
a lot of times you walk into a business, right? And probably more than not, somebody, before they go those next steps as far as really inquiring about a business, they've at least probably visited it, right? Stepped foot in it, kind of seen what it looks like, what it smells like, all of that stuff. But it's a very one-sided perspective, right? So what I would do would be an in-store experience, because I would want to take, let's say it's you, I would want to take you from the customer side to the other side of the counter, right? And really walk through the process as far as, okay, this is when someone comes in the morning. This is their checklist of things they're responsible for. This is when the next person comes in. This is how we're set up operationally. Just to really make sure that that people can operate in their sweet spot. I've seen it before, specific again to food service, but you get somebody that is used to an office kind of job, and then now all of a sudden, I want to put you on your feet for 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, right? And that's a little bit of an adjustment that you may say, cool, that's not a problem at all. Or you may say, you know what, this is kind of not what I thought it was going to be. So trying to put as many cards that you can get on the table in front of you to help you make
the biggest
the best
question
decision
most
for
people would
your
have is,
investment.
how much is
Because
it
that's
going
what
to
it is. I
cost
mean,
me
you're
to invest in a franchise?
putting a lot of money into something, or
Right.
taking on investors, and you want to make sure that you can thrive in that, right? Yeah, and I think that's all over the place, right? Depending on what you're looking at getting into, those costs. But I'd also break them down to, see, there's my makeshift phone holder. But I would break them down into kind of your upfront costs and then your ongoing costs, or what are, companies take different royalties, different marketing, advertising fees, essentially out of every dollar that you take in, and what do you get back from that? When you're talking specific to royalties and advertising and stuff like that, what are you getting from that franchisor, right? Like, what does, I've seen a lot of
Flip your phone
companies
back
where
around.
they
You have to hit
have training that
the
they put in
circular
place. They
button,
have
the
a
two
support
arrows.
system maybe for, the first couple of weeks or first month or whatever to get you off the ground. And then
That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It happens.
yeah, I'm trying.
So if you're
Just
facing the
trying
phone, the two arrows should be up in the top left corner, I think.
it. Denise, sorry about this. What? Yeah.
Do you want to leave out and come back in?
No, they're in the bottom, but I can't. I'm pushing
What
it,
you
but it's
want to
not
do?
doing it for me.
You there? Okay, I think we may have lost him. Hopefully he'll come back on. Oh, there he is. Okay. Okay. Oh, no, no worries. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, for me, I'm like
Boom.
franchise
All right, we're
dumb.
there.
Okay.
Forgive me. I don't know what happened there.
And I travel around and I go out and I go to all these places and I don't know
But so
that
what
this
we're
is a
saying is that
franchise,
ongoing
right?
support.
And there's
What
got
does
to
that
be
look like?
so many. Obviously,
If
McDonald's
you're in
is
food
probably like one
service,
of the most popular ones, and
how often are
now
they going to be
Jersey
visiting your stores?
Mike's
And
and
probably most
tropical
importantly, when they are
smoothies, and
visiting their stores, what are they
I
doing?
didn't even know like these
Are
massage
they,
places
you
were
know,
are
working
were
with your team, working with your staff,
franchises.
helping develop them, talking about
There
customer
must be a
service,
whole
talking
world
about
of franchises
operations?
that I'm
What
driving
are they
past
touching on when
every
they're
single
coming
day
in?
or stopping past or
I
going
think
in
that's
and
critical.
patronizing. What types of franchises are there? In you know,
Yeah. Yeah, most people don't.
which one? I'm sorry, because you went out for a second. Which one?
Franchise. I mean, you name it, there's a franchise group for it, right? I obviously food, but then,
Those are
some other,
franchises?
I'll think of franchise groups that I will sometimes work with, printing. I mean, there's plenty of like popping up that,
Wow.
what they'll do for me is they'll provide me with uh, print like printing franchises, right? So what they'll do is they'll help provide me with any kind of print material, whether we're talking menus, any kind of marketing material, any kind of
You said,
window clings. I mean, any kind of stuff that I need as far from a marketing standpoint. There's that. I mean, you
oh,
touched
those are not
on
franchises.
the
I
massage
do know,
stuff.
you know,
You're seeing
new
these hair,
owners of
like the
Chick-fil-A's.
suites, right? Like the salon
Did you hear me?
suites where it's like, not your
There was a
conventional,
delay. I do
like
know a
hair
few owners
cuttery.
of Chick-fil-A.
Those are
Are
franchise
those
out. I mean, hair
franchises?
cutteries. There's quite a few businesses. I mean, in food service, the majority are franchised out. I mean, there's a couple of brands out there
Okay.
that are not franchised. Starbucks, Chipotle. Those are all corporately owned. Chick-fil-A,
Okay.
for kind of, it's more or less company owned. Say it again.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah.
say I
Can you hear
want
me now?
to explore franchising. So are you saying that I just need to go to a store, whatever the brand
Um,
is, and try to get
Chick-fil-A
in
has a
contact with
very unique
whoever that
system.
owner is? You know, because
So
what
yes,
if I'm
they
not
are franchise
sure
owners, but they're all
that I
technically
want to go
company-owned
into food
stores, and
service or
then
something that's not
those
food service?
franchise owners buy into a stake within the company. Um, and but they have a different system. They're kind of a blend in between, and they are franchisees, but they're kind of a blend in between your traditional franchise group, like let's say a
Okay.
Jersey Mike's, and your company-owned brands like a Chipotle. They're kind of right in that in between area.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I would say your best starting point is directly with directly with the franchise company, right? So on the corporate office end of things, you going into a store and asking questions, and um, it's going to really depend on if when you come in, do you speak to the right person,
Hmm.
right? And do they get you in contact with the owner, or do they not get you in contact with the owner? But as a franchise
Hmm.
system, and again, I'm going to speak specific to Jersey Mike's, but I think that all franchise groups have to do this. You would initially reach out to them, and there's a kind of a vetting process, right? Where let's talk about why you want to do it, what's your background, financially, Do you qualify for whatever those requirements are for that brand? And then from there, they would put you in contact with more of a local representative, but at the same time, they will give you disclosure documents that have a list, like if Jersey Mike's, it's a list of every single franchisee within the system. So, I mean, there's 2,000 locations. I think there's like 400 maybe franchisees. You get a list of all that. And what I would say too is don't just call the guy that's right around the corner or the closest franchise group. Absolutely call him, but call a guy out in California, a guy out in Florida, and just learn as much as you can learn. Ask as many questions as you can ask, and really dive into it, right? Because the way that looking at it when you go into a franchise thing, I mean, it's not, unfortunately, I think a lot of people have a notion that franchising is kind of easy, right? That they're going to kind of buy into whatever they do a week's worth of training, open the doors, and print money, right? And you know, you really have to work it. You have to work it. You have to be present. You really got to be there with the team side by side in the trenches to really make it successful, right? You know, another great question asking yourself prior to getting involved is asking that why. You know, why do you want to become a franchisee of whatever brand? You know, some people may not agree with this statement, but I think I do wholeheartedly believe this. You know, a lot of people have become enamored with the idea of being quote unquote entrepreneurs, right? It's kind of become, I'm not going to say a fad, but it's people, and it's a great thing. It absolutely is a great thing. And I'm not knocking that at all. Buying into a franchise system, you are not an entrepreneur. And the reason why I say that is when you buy into a franchise system, you're signing up to follow a system, right? There's a system for, you know, a whole training thing. What you're supposed to do, they give, in Jersey Mike's, we give you a blueprint, and I'm going to say, this is what works. This is exactly what I want you to do. I don't want you to deviate from this plan. You can't say, you know, I like Old Bay on my cheesesteaks. It's probably pretty good, but no, you can't just start serving Old Bay to your customers, right? There's a very specific thing that you're supposed to follow, and that's what you need to do. You know, I have some friends that you know, own some smaller brands in food service, right? So we're talking either one unit or they have 4 or 5 units. But those are, in my opinion, true entrepreneurs because they're every day figuring out where they're figuring out their supply chain. They're figuring out where they're getting chicken from, where it's the best price. They have multiple vendors they got to reach out to. They got to navigate a lot more than what you need to do in when you buy into a franchise group, because ideally, when you buy into a franchise group, you know, Jersey Mike's has an office in New Jersey
so there
with
are rules
150
that you have
people,
to follow, policies
and they
that are in
navigate
place,
all of the
guidelines,
purchasing for me. They navigate,
all that kind of
they
stuff
make it
that
easy
kind
for
of
me.
sets the path for you, so that
So
and
and again, that's
makes it
another
a little
reason
bit
why
easier for you.
it's a safer bet, absolutely, hands down, to buy into a franchise group, the right franchise group, but to buy into a franchise group rather than going and you know, if I open Kyle's sub shop, right? There's a ton more risk involved with me opening up Kyle's sub shop than me opening up Jersey Mike's that over the last 50 years has figured a lot of things out. When I would be doing my own thing, I'm figuring out a lot of stuff on the fly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that you put it on cruise control, right? And it's not, again, it's not really cruise control, right? You're constantly having to improvise on the fly, and you know, much of it is leading your team, right? But the idea is that you buy into a company that has systems in place that are going to support you, and they do a lot of that legwork so that, to be honest, you have the ability to not be in a back office trying to figure out where you're getting product from, or
So
where you're gonna,
how's
you know,
it been
what your company,
for you
what you're gonna
during
do.
the
You're able
pandemic?
to be
You
on that
know,
front
what kind of
line and
challenges have you had to
operate
face?
because,
I'm
again, this
sure
is specific to
it's
food
very
service,
similar
but I
to
think it
many
probably is
companies,
generalized enough that it applies to
even
many
ones that have
different
had to
other
close their
businesses.
doors. But I
But
know that you have
I
not
know
had to
that
close your
I'm most
doors.
impactful
But what
on
kind
the
of
front
challenges
line
have you
with
had
my
to face during the
team and
pandemic, and
with
how have you
my
been able to
customers,
overcome them?
right? Like working with them, building relationships with them. I mean, that's how I'm going to become, that's how I'm going to make my business more profitable, not trying to navigate, you know, payroll or products and stuff like that. Well, you know, the crazy thing, just like everyone else had, is um, it's become a little bit more normalized now, which is kind of awkward to say. But in the beginning, um, things changed on the fly, right? We didn't know what was going on. You know, were we gonna be able to open tomorrow? Were we gonna be shut down? I mean, there were so many variables that we had to kind of adapt to. Fortunate for us, we had already had
Yeah. Hmm.
prior relationships, and we were already set up with some of those third-party vendors. Third party being Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, kind of those
Uh-huh.
companies. But our business model in itself
Right.
shifted because at the time we were maybe 15 to 20% on those third party orders, right? And now some of my
Mhm.
locations are etching up towards, you know, 40, 50% for those third parties. So on our end, just operationally, you got to shift, you got to pivot. We had to move some things around. You know, a lot of our marketing, much of our original marketing that we do as a brand would be like community outreach, right? So it's really going out there, knocking on doors, shaking hands,
Mhm.
kissing babies, offering a free sandwich, trying to get customers to come through the door, which you don't really, I mean, you can't really do that right now, right? I can't go visit
Yeah.
schools. I can't go visit office buildings and walk in and kind of build a
Yeah.
relationship with somebody. So, you know, much of our marketing
Oh.
shifted to
So you weren't. So you didn't
encouraging
have.
people to do those
So you
third
didn't have to
party
lay off anybody or.
orders. And, you know, we took a steep decline in the very, very beginning, right? Probably for about the first month. And there was a ton of uncertainty.
Mhm.
And then we've been fortunate enough to kind of rebound from that. And we're at a pretty stable point right now, which is great because, you know, the biggest concern at,
Mhm.
you know, when all that was initially going down is, you know, what are we going to be able to do with our staff? Right. I didn't want to, I wanted to be able to
Yeah.
keep people getting a paycheck and providing for their family. And we were fortunate enough to do that with food service. Some other brands.
Mhm.
No, no, and I did have a mix of some team members that wanted to step back a little bit, right? So maybe it was someone that was
Right.
working
Right.
40 hours a week, and whether uh, it was, I don't want to use the word fear, but whether it was they felt that they were, you know, too much at
Mhm.
risk, maybe they scaled back a little bit, or, you know, look, schools got shut down and people have kids, and maybe they had to stay home and take care of their kids. But for the most part, for the most part, we were able to remain pretty stable, and we didn't have to like let anyone go or anything
Yeah.
like that. But again, you're talking about a segment being quick service, right? The difference between quick service and full service. Full service, you go and sit down there, right? You have a
Yeah.
waiter, waitress, hostess, stuff like that. Quick service didn't take the same hit right now, at least, that full service did, right? Because a lot of full service restaurants, um, they couldn't pivot the same way we could, right? So they couldn't have guests come in,
Mhm.
right? And very few people think about going to, I'm not going to name a brand, but going to a sit down spot where you're going to pay $20 for a burger and fries and doing carry out,
Okay.
right? You
So,
usually go to those
what
spots for the
about
ambiance, to sit down, to have a
uh,
meal with somebody
what
where,
policies have you
you
had
know,
to
I'm
put
not
in
going to go to a
place
full service
now that
restaurant and
we,
just get
you
carry
know,
out.
the
right?
county and
So a
different
lot of
jurisdictions
those
are
companies took
reopening and everything.
the full service side of the restaurant industry. They took a little bit of a harsher hit than we did initially. And now they're starting, you see them, they're starting to reopen now, and it's, it's not 100% capacity, but I hope for those brands, it's enough to get them through this phase, right? Kind of through this, and hopefully they all come out on the other end.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, so I mean, from the very beginning, we already did a great job. I mean, being in food service, right? You're constantly, it's all about perception, right? So we're constantly wiping down things and sanitizing and disinfecting. We took that to a max, right? Even with washing your hands, right? Like in food service, you're washing your hands all day long. But I remember, that first couple of weeks, myself and all my team members, their hands were breaking out, right? Because they're just so dry, right? Because we were literally
Right.
every single, I mean, in a 10-minute time, you'd wash your hands 3 or 4 times, right? But we were just OCD about it. So, making sure that cleaning, sanitizing, we have had to, limiting guests that are allowed to come in. Obviously, social distancing to make sure that, you don't have people standing on top of each other in the store. The good thing about that is,
Right.
everyone was very understanding, right? I mean,
Yep.
from the general public perspective,
Yeah.
I pre-COVID-19, if I
Right.
said, hey, sorry, there's too many people inside, I need you to go stand outside, you would be like, what's your problem, right? We would have a problem with each other, right? As long as we politely ask someone, hey, we're at 10 inside right now. Do you mind just waiting at the door until the next guest leaves? People say absolutely. I mean, people want to be
Yeah.
safe out there as well, right?
So,
So they are,
and now that the jurisdiction is
they're following
reopening,
guidelines, wearing masks.
well, first of all, let me just ask you this. Are there
And
any
again, it's
lessons
to
that you've
that
learned
kind of
from going
awkward
through a
point where
period like this?
it's kind of normal, like when you leave the house, you're probably used to grabbing your cell phone, your keys, your pocketbook, and now it's like, where's my mask? Right? I don't leave the house without it. Um, um, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, those challenges, everyone understood them. Everyone bought into them. There was very little pushback on them. I mean, on our crew side of things, there was no
Right.
pushback on it. So it was executed pretty easily. Um, be thankful. You're right. I mean, I have so much gratitude toward the teams in our stores because, again, in the beginning, it was kind of scary, right? I was checking the news on my phone every 10 minutes to figure out, okay, what's the latest twist? What's the latest news article? Am I going to get this? And not only that, but you feel you feel a certain responsibility when you have a family, right? You have kids at home, you have a wife, a husband, you have, relatives, whatever, but you feel a certain responsibility. So, all of my team kind of stood in this battle, not to call it a battle, but they stand tall throughout this entire process with us. They
Yeah.
showed
Yeah.
up,
Did you feel
they made sure we got the
prepared
job
for something
done.
like this?
Obviously, we made sure we
Or
were being safe with it,
no?
but
No.
in the beginning,
So,
if I had a,
were you
I mean,
able
anyone
to
in the store, if they said, "Hey, I'm not safe. I don't feel
create, I
comfortable
guess,
coming to
maybe
work,"
some,
it was like, I
formulate some
completely
backup
understood.
plans
There
and
was
things
no
for,
me being
because
upset with
I
them.
feel
Hey,
like a
you're
lot of
fine, whatever. It was
entrepreneurs
like,
don't
no, I
have
get it.
that
I get it.
in
You have to
top
do
of
what's best
mind,
for you and your
and it
family,
may not always
and
have to be top of
but
mind,
thankfully,
but it should be in the back of your
all of my
mind.
key
What is
leadership
my
within the stores,
contingency plan?
they stood strong and they said, okay, this is an adjustment we're going to have to make, and we're going to have to pivot and figure out a lot of things. But they stood in the fight. So, I mean, just grateful, super grateful for the team. No, not absolutely, because
You can do social media on your own.
Yeah, I mean, you have to weigh in. Okay, worst case scenario. What is this? How does this play out? And so you absolutely think about that. But again, it was so. I mean, if you think about this entire time, it's been so just so much uncertainty that it's really it was kind of hard to kind of really formulate a plan because you didn't know what was going to happen. I remember when Hogan was having those press conferences, and it was like every once a week he'd have a press conference on a Monday, and I'm logging in and watching because I'm thinking he may say he may say. Denise, you're good too. You can't hear anything. Yeah, I can't hear anything in the background. But I used to watch those press conferences and still do, but like intently because I'm thinking the message could be, we can't be open. We have to close at 5 o'clock. I mean, that's how it happened with the not allowing guests or not allowing guests to dine in. That was a press conference at 11 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock we were told we couldn't do that, and everyone was kind of in a scramble.
Are you ready for
I'm calling health departments, asking them.
I know we're
asking
not
a couple of
in
contacts
full,
that I had with the health department.
right now,
saying,
right now, do you have customers coming in and sitting down?
Did that message apply to us? And what are we
now
supposed
that we're
to do?
In phase
or
two?
Help me navigate this. And again, everyone was. I don't fault anyone. Everyone was moving on the fly. We had to move quick. But my response I got from some of those health department people were, I do not know right now. I just got that same message when you got it. Give me an hour, 2 hours to kind of figure this out, make some phone calls, and let's touch base, at 3 o'clock. So just so much unknown, really a lot of unknown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, phase two. No, our lobbies for dining in are still closed, and that's just a decision that, to be honest, I just haven't been comfortable making yet. And I kind of base that off of a lot of our team. I had the conversations with the general managers and some of the supervisors from stores, and it's just not something that they're fully bought into yet. And I've also noticed, I've a lot of other brands that are similar in size to, when I say size, as far as like the actual dining area, our square footage of our restaurants, a lot of them still haven't opened that back up where customers can dine in. I noticed Panera's doing it, but at the same time, Panera's footprint is 3 to 4 times the size of what our size of our restaurants are. So it's a lot easier for them to have social distancing and make people feel comfortable.
I guess,
whereas, some of our stores,
the time of COVID,
12, 13, 1,400 square feet.
Let me ask you a question though about OSHA,
set up
because
tables,
I know that,
and I just wouldn't feel, I know personally I wouldn't feel comfortable if,
policies in place,
at least right now,
on their own.
if I'm sitting down and I'm eating a sandwich and you're walking by me, 2 feet from me to get to the line.
There are things that have to absolutely follow.
It's kind of uncomfortable. So
guidelines.
We're gonna assess that every week, and then just make whatever decisions that we feel are best for the team.
Too. Where are you seeing those differences? because the whole thing here is about keeping your employees safe as well as your customers.
True. Again, every decision we're making. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
those are the two priorities,
Yeah.
and the real priority out of those two, obviously, customers are important, but the team members come first,
Okay.
right? It sounds ironic to say this, but I do believe the most
Well,
important
Kyle,
people
this
within
has
our
been very
stores
helpful. I think really good
are the team members
information. I
behind
want to
that
thank you
line,
so much for
right?
coming on
Of
today.
course, I'm not saying customers are not
And
important, but if my team are happy, if they're taken care of, if they're
oh, no, it's
comfortable, if
okay.
they feel
I have
safe,
family issues here
that's going
too.
to
So,
project onto the customers
yeah,
as far
you
as how that
can't,
experience
some
goes,
things you
right?
can't, some things you
So
can't
really kind of
avoid. So I
putting
do
them first,
appreciate,
and then,
I do appreciate
again, just
you,
figuring out
coming
how
on
to keep people safe, and just trying to
and
follow as
technical
many of the
difficulties,
guidelines, all of the
whatever.
guidelines that are put out from
They
whether it's the
happen.
county or the state, just following everything to a T, to make sure that that we do what we need to do to keep people safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry we had some phone issues. My phone all got jacked up and
Hmm.
no sweat.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and I hope we could answer some questions that were
Yeah.
valuable to some people that may wonder or looking at getting into
I
franchising.
appreciate your time.
Again,
Thanks so much. And if anybody wanted to get in
you got to buy
contact with
into it.
you
You
to
got to
learn
buy
more
into it
about
and
the process,
the
where can
values of
they
that company,
contact you?
right? Really buy into what that bigger picture thing is with that company, and make sure that your values align with the company values, right? And make sure the company values are real. A lot of people put their core values, and this is what we stand behind, but you get behind closed doors and it's a different story. And you're like, wait, where were all those core values and all those things that I got sold on
Okay.
initially, but
Well,
now
thanks
all of
again for
that's out the
joining me
window. So,
tonight. And I'll see you soon.
really do your work.
You're
Do your
welcome.
work. Do
You're
your due
welcome.
diligence.
All
Make
right.
sure
You
you're
too.
making
Bye-bye.
the right decisions.
Well, that was Kyle. He is with Jersey Mike's. He works with a lot of Jersey Mike's in this area. My name is Denise Smith, and I just invite you to join me here every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. I will always spotlight someone who is an entrepreneur who works with small businesses to help you with whatever different topic areas we discuss. Lots of things, including insurance, whether it's intellectual property, whether it's getting started, whether it's how to grow, whether it's how to hire the best attorney for your company. Join me here. Again, I invite you all to follow me here. I am Denise G. Smith, and I'm here every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Feel free to stop on by. All right. Good night, folks.